Hey, what's up? This is Jake here in Jake's shop. Finally time to put the LS in the car. You know, I want to get it out of my way. I'm going to obviously have it all masked off before I do the rest of the body work here, but I really want to make sure it just fits fine, everything works out. There's a couple things when you're putting an LS into a 68 Camaro that you need to be mindful of. A few modifications you need to make so that it clears all the steering components and the exhaust clears the steering box, engine mounts, things like that. So in this video I'll do a quick clip and show you exactly what I did to this thing to make it fit inside this Camaro. Okay, so here's the LS. A couple major things you're always going to need to do for most muscle car applications is that bottom oil pan. You know, I touched on it on the previous video, but that's just a GM Performance Parts one. They actually make a bunch of different brands make them. I think Holley makes some and other things like that. But the biggest difference in that oil pan is to clear the cross member on the car. You know, the stock oil pans on these actually come up and into this area. So this is notched further back to clear the cross member as well as the steering linkage behind it, and I can show you. So here's the, you know, obviously the cross member of the car, and then that steering linkage right there. You know, the oil pan needs to drop in behind this because even as this turns, it moves forward slightly. So anyways, that is kind of the one thing you definitely need to do. The other thing is getting engine mounts. These are aftermarket trans adapters, and they just moved the engine mounts more forward, and so there's a bracket assembly that goes along with that. So those are the two main things you need to do to most any LS to get that thing to fit in there properly. The other thing that you need to do is find exhaust manifolds that work. I've heard a rumor that certain exhaust manifolds that came on these would fit. I tried the ones I had. I believe the ones I had are off a Corvette maybe, and they wouldn't fit. And mainly it was a driver's side right here. It would not fit. It kept bumping into the steering box there. So I'm going to order some shorty headers for that. Again, I'm not going crazy worried about, you know, long tube headers and whatnot, but those are the main conversions. The other thing that I will be doing is probably doing an alternator relocation kit, but I'm not sure. I've read a couple different things that I might be able to get it to work. I've done an LS and an F body before, but that was on my Firebird back there, and it's got a custom frame, custom suspension. So, you know, there's rack and pinion in there, and it's just completely different. And on my car, I did relocate. I can show you here. You know, alternators on the top left corner. So, and then obviously that's a KRC pump and my Pro Charger down there. So this is, you know, custom. Everything's custom. The frame's custom. I did this about 13 years ago, but same exact engine. Just that one's running, you know, 10 PSI on a D1SC Pro Charger. This one just going to have a cam in it, stage 2 cam. You know, the difference being about 650 horse versus this, you know, she'll be about 450, 500. So anyways, the other thing I didn't touch on was the transmission, and it's now completely rebuilt. Had a buddy just go through that for me. He knows these things in and out and just whipped it out. So it's all bolted up, brand new torque converter, brand new flywheel, and everything is ready to basically be mocked in there. The other thing I like to do before I throw an engine in, obviously this is just great because there's no core support in my way, there's no fenders, there's no nothing. It should just pretty much go right in. But are the engine mounts that came with the car. You know, these are standard Chevy small block engine mounts. I leave them slightly loose just so they can move just a little while I'm putting it in. That helps line the main bolts up when they go into the engine mounts, and then I'll go back through and tighten it after I get it into place. So maybe shoot a little time lapse next here of seeing how this thing goes in. so I've got the block in there. Now, another thing I had to do to get this to fit, and a lot of it, you know, there are a lot of things out there that'll tell you that you have to do this, but you can see down in this section, I had to actually modify the subframe. And I really had to do that just for that little bit of extra clearance. There was probably a couple other ways to do it as well. I would expect if you bought the right oil pan and maybe some different engine mounts, you could actually get the clearance you needed. You know, the clearance on this is pretty good. You know, it doesn't look like a lot between the firewall there, but it's quite a bit. There's at least an inch there. And that, obviously, that head's closer than the other head. They're offset on these engines. But, you know, it really turned out nice. I'm going to go with shorty stubby headers on this application, and mainly to clear that steering box. And, you know, again, I'm not a crazy high horsepower race application on this sucker, so I'm not too worried about long tubes, but, you know, this side has plenty of room. So, yeah, went in there pretty nice. Oh, the other thing I was going to show is the transmission cross member. You know, I ended up making a custom one, which was a little bit of an ordeal. They make aftermarket ones, but what I ended up doing was, I don't know if you're going to be able to see this in the camera or not with the lighting, but I actually have a flanged assembly here with grade 8 bolts where I can drop the center section of the cross member out, because cross member sits up here above the subframe. But there, now it's focused in right there. So that all hangs way up higher than everything else out of the way, but this kind of allows it to take it in and out really easy without having to get to these bolts up through the subframe and the rest of the cross member support here. So kind of a fun little custom option in this that no one will probably ever really fully appreciate unless you go to take the car apart. So yeah, hey, if you like this video, hit like and subscribe. I'll keep doing some updates on the car. The intake is not going to be showing up for another couple weeks or so. So I'm going to go ahead and continue on with masking off the car and getting the rest of the bulk of the bodywork completed. So it'll be a while before I get to see it in this condition again. So anyways, thanks for watching.